the things, and you see there is a capable of industrial applicability, then these things are gettable. And then 3P is something on traditional knowledge. So we have a specific this clause where anything traditional knowledge means anything written or oral or covered in our Ayurveda, Unani, and things. And there is some disclosure about the invention that will also constitute as a non-allowable subject matter. As a lawyer, we try to defend, what are allowable, what are not, and how much information given in traditional knowledge, and how person skilled in the art would read that thing. So these are the broader sections on Section 3 on non-allowability. Similarly, we have section for mechanical inventions, Section 3F, or we have where mere arrangement or rearrangement of known devices are not allowable. We have a specific section for software. We have Section 3K, where computer program or mathematical model or algorithms are not allowed. So, and the mere presentation of informations are not allowed. So there are different sections for telecom inventions, mechanical invention, biotech invention. These are the sections basically for our life science and pharmaceutical. So this is a broad overview of the journey before the patent office. Few of may be aware and many may not be aware. We have 4 patent offices in India, one at Delhi, other at Mumbai, then Calcutta and Chennai. And if you are a local applicant, then your jurisdiction decides on at which place you are. If you are from north, you have to file before Delhi Patent Office. If you are from south, you have to file before Chennai. And then so on. If you are from your west side, then your jurisdiction becomes Mumbai. And then east or rest of the India, which is not covered in the jurisdictional part, you can file before Kolkata Patent Office. All 4 patent offices are separate, but they issue one Indian patent certificate, and that is enforceable, and you have the right all over the India. So if you see the chart, starting from a filing till Supreme Court, so it gives you the broad process. You can file a first year provisional application. Provisional application is something where you have a concept and you have some examples or embodiment. Idea about your invention, but still you require more data to file a complete application. This is such a big topic, how to draft a patent specification, what are the items we covered in any patent invention. And so there is a description part of any invention where you try to give what is the field of invention, what is the background of invention, what is a summary of invention, detailed description of invention. You give figures, you give your all data, your processes, and your testing on animals or cell lines, or if you have done on human. That you all provide in a specification, and then there is a claim part. In the claim part, you write what you are claiming out of this invention. So that is an art. You claim something which is fully supported by your specification. Specification is your dictionary, and the claims are your more boundary. Eventually, we can enforce your claims. So we'll come to the enforcement part later, but that's what patent specification is all about. We cover all invention, we write draft invention, and then also put a claims to it, what we are claiming out of that invention. So that we call as a provisional application. You can file a provisional application. Claims are not mandatory in the provisional application. So they are the fees, they are the different fees. There are 3 or 4 categories where you can file. You can file as an individual, there is less fees, 1/4, or you can file as a startup. You can file as a small entity, or for the large entity, there is the big fees. And here the fees are for the large entity. This says, 8,000 is the filing fees, and 10 claims, up to 10 claims, there is no fees. And up to 30 pages, there is no fees. But there they increase, the fees, official fees increases the moment you put more disclosure in your specification. If your specification goes beyond 30 pages, you have to pay 800 per page. It's for the large entity. And same for the claims. If you are going more than 10 claims, you have to pay the official fee. And then there are procedure, you can file a provisional application, and then within 12 months, you can file a complete application. Complete application, you can put claims, and you can put more example, you can put all support for your invention, some of the more data, you can put some of the more experiment. You can basically, you have to support your specification. So you can file a complete, or even within 12 months, any application from outside India under a conventional treaty can be filed in India within 12 months. And then also you can file a PCT application within 12 months of first filing. PCT means your worldwide application, where you file a PCT and then after 30 or 31 months, you have a right to file in the multiple countries. So this is a filing. Once you file in India, then there is a publication. You can also apply for early publication. The point is application has to be published so that is go to the next stage. Publication is important. You have to yeah. So then you have to apply for a request for examination. So even though you file a patent application, IPO patent office will not examine your application unless you file a request for examination. You can file a request for examination also after filing early publication, or for the national phase of PCT application, we can file a request for examination at the time of filing itself. So there is official fees also for filing a request for examination. And these fees are refundable. Suppose like you do not have any interest in your application and you want to withdraw your application, but you have paid the request for examination fees. So if patent office has not started examination of your application, not issued office action, they can refund you 90% of fees of request for examination. So yeah, so now request for examination, once you file, then patent office normally issue a first examination report. And this examination report is mix of technical and formal objection or legal objection. The examiner may ask, because all the examiners in patent office are from technical background. They will ask the question, how your invention is novel in view of this document. They do their own search, come with their own prior art document, and they may raise this document saying, vis-a-vis this document is not novel, vis-a-vis these documents, they are not inventive, or it may fall under section 3. And then we have to file our reply. If you meet your all, objection, patent is get granted and get published. But if you are not meeting your objection, then or normally patent office issue a oral hearing, and then in our oral hearing you try to explain for the first time to the examiner or controller about your invention, about the objections, and try to say how technically you're meeting novelty, inventive steps, section 3, or sufficiency, and all these kind of things. And then within 2 weeks, you can file your written notes of arguments for your hearing. And then the controller will again see your matter. Either he will grant it or he can refuse it. If he refuse, then again you have you can go in appeal. You can go before an intellectual property appellate board. That is an independent tribunal. Patent office is an independent, and intellectual property appellate board is altogether different tribunal, where the retired judge is the chairperson and they are the technical members appointed who see the matters of patent side, trademark side, copyright side. Or you can also file a review petition if there is a review is filed only on the limited ground. And from the appeal also, if your matter gets refused, you can go to the High Court, and thereafter you can go to the Supreme Court by filing SLP. So this is a broader thing about, and I will, and then on the right hand side, there are oppositions as well. So any time after publication and before the grant, any person can file a pre-grant opposition. They are the grounds of pre-grant oppositions. And then after the grant, even within 1 year from the grant, any person, an interested person can file a post-grant opposition. And even if someone misses, any interested person misses post-grant opposition, they have a, they can file a revocation before IPAB, or there is revocation even available as a during the suit, infringement suit. You can file a counter claim before. So that also we deal in the coming slides. So yes, I mean, as I indicated, IPO hearings, in a patent office, hearings are possible through video conferencing. I mean, we are doing all video conferencing hearings from the last 2 to 3 years. And especially in the COVID time, that is very helpful. So we are able to, take our matters in these virtual hearings. And you have an option in patent office. You can choose for a physical hearing or a video conferencing hearing. Normally you prefer sometimes physical hearing when you see this matter is complicated, it requires more time and there's a more detailed kind of argument. And same time, if you see, this video conferencing works well and you are confident to argue in the VC, you can also do it. There is a dynamic cause list of hearing on the patent office website. So earlier, you can apply for postponement or adjournment of these hearings, but now there is a capping. Maximum once if patent office issue a hearing notice, you can only ask for 2 adjournment or postponement, and that also comes with a official fees. There is a fees of 5,000 you have to pay, and that adjournment you can apply just before 3 days of the actual hearing date. So earlier, these things were not there. So most of the time, this client or attorney, they try to delay their matters, and then there was a backlog. So this was one of the way how patent office devised how to reduce the backlog and expedite the matters. So they said no more adjournments are, only 2 adjournments will be given, and that will come with a fees. You pay the fees, you take your adjournment. So that has also helped in reducing the backlog. There are few provisions I would like to explain to this keeping audience. We have some typical provisions. What is the practical approach to? One thing you should know about the foreign filing license for Indian application. This integrated. Then you also need to update patent office. You have also filed a PCT application, or you have also filed some application outside India, then you have to keep patent office updated as per section 8.1, or if there is a section 8.2 where patent office can ask you the details of processing of the application. They can ask you what kind of the claims were granted in these countries and what were the objections raised in these countries. You have to fulfill these requirements. And the third is a statement of working. So even the granted patent, or once you have a granted patent, they come with some responsibility. Yearly, you have to file a statement, working statement. That will also I will cover in on the next slide. So these 3 are the most critical thing, and the first thing is the foreign filing license. I mean, you should be aware of this. We have section 39, which say Indian resident. Anyone who is an Indian resident cannot file first application outside India without foreign filing permission. So if you are Indian resident, either you apply for a foreign filing permission, you generally get this permission within 2 weeks. Nowadays, we get permission within a week or 10 days. You have to give to the patent office what is the gist of invention, and you intend to file this application outside India. Like for example, if you have a method of treatment claim, and you have a claim like new use or new property of a known substance or something which was known earlier, but now you see that is also can be used in a new indication like cancer or COVID. And then you say India, it may not be allowed, but I can file this patent in Europe or US. So you need to take a permission from a patent office, or you file these applications before patent office. You wait for 6 weeks, and after 6 weeks you can file anywhere. But this is a one condition. Most of the people are not aware. Even I sometimes I find most of the Indian companies are not aware of this, and they tend to file directly outside India without getting foreign filing permission or without filing first in India. The issue is here. Section 39 does not specifically say that the invention must be made in India. It only says the resident. If you are a resident of India, and there is no definition of resident given under the Act. So we take the definition of resident from the Income Tax Act. There is a section 6 in Income Tax Act which say, if you are a resident, resident of someone who has spent 180 days or 182 days in a year in a country, or a cumulative 425 days if you calculate for the consecutive 3 years. So that is called something called resident. And if you are a resident, even you have made some invention outside India, you will fall under this definition. So And there are penal provisions also. If you are not complying with this, in an act, there is a provision of imprisonment and fine. As of now, I have not heard of any matter where these things have been invoked, but these are very serious, issues where inventors or applicant or companies are not aware of. Some examples of difficulties, like if there are multiple inventors or applicants are there, some are in India and some are in overseas. The classic example is our contract manufacturing, and where you see they are applicants from the outside India, but they get the basic research or some research done from these kind of contract manufacturing unit. Then there is a burden on these Indian resident inventors, at least to get some foreign filing license if they are putting even their name as an inventor in these patents. If they are not putting it, then they could be issued in the future, and it may go even for the imprisonment. And then if there is a joint like R&D services agreements are there. So we say take abundant caution. If inventor or developer is resident in India, we advise to take a foreign filing license or ask for first file in India and wait for 6 weeks before filing outside India. This is a working statement. If you have a granted patent, like you file your income tax return every year, the patent office also asks you for a granted patent. Are granted to encourage inventions, so that these inventions could be worked in India, they could be worked on a commercial scale, and they are not merely to enjoy monopoly. And patentee are supposed to report by 31st March of every year, like of their previous year, about the working and non-working of their patent in India. For example, by next year, 31st March, if I have a granted patent, so I have to disclose to patent office about this calendar year, 2020 January to December, whether I have worked my patent or not, what is the quantum, how much value, or if I have given to any licensees. So these informations are required. And there is a table, and there is a consequence again. If you are not filing a working statement, then they are fined up to 10 lakhs, in this. And then this is a table taken from the IPO annual report. Till, if you see 2017-18, there are about 56,000 patents in force. Form 27 is a working statement was filed in 46,000, and then working were reported only in 12,000 plus cases. So most of the patent filed and even working statements are filed, they are basically a non-working kind of statement. Just to give you that. Yeah, even you guys have heard about this compulsory license because especially in a pharmaceutical, this comes into the picture. So this compulsory license comes under Section 84 of our Patent Act. Is only start after 3 years from the grant. If there is a granted patent and 3 years have passed, and then they are the ground for compulsory license. There was a legislative intent. It was to enable manufacturer in India for affordability and accessibility, so that Indian manufacturer can address the need of accessibility and affordability. They have brought 3 grounds where you can ask for a compulsory license. One is availability. You may question this, by filing work, you can see working statement and say, question, the reasonable requirement was not satisfied by this applicant. They have taken a patent, they have taken a monopoly, but they were the big requirement in the country, and they're not meeting the demand of, so there is a availability issue. Then you may also question affordability. Some drug prices are too high. You may say these drugs are not available to the public at a reasonable, affordable price. So these words are, very vague. But you don't know what is reasonably affordable. These, something like in a car industry. A luxury car could be affordable to other, but it cannot be to everyone. But here, how you interpret this, affordability to the public, a reasonable affordable price. What is affordable price? The affordable price, especially in medicine, could be different for a different layer of people. And then there is a working. The third ground may also allege these patents are not commercially worked in India. they bought the patent and only just importing the drug from the outside. So these are the bigger grounds. This remains an area of a debate and concern in our pharmaceutical industry. In our pharma side, we have only one compulsory license granted. That was in 2013. Might be aware of the NATCO versus Bayer's anti-cancer drug, Nexavir. So NATCO applied for a compulsory license, and these three grounds were alleged, and they able to secure compulsory license from patent office. Then after that, even the High Court has found their things. And thereafter, there were subsequent compulsory license applications were made against BMS, Dasatinib or Astra, Genka, Saxagliptin, but these all were rejected. And in my knowledge now, currently pending cases of compulsory license are before the patent office. So just to bring you, what are the initiatives at the IPO Indian Patent Office to clear backlog? Earlier, I joined the practice somewhere in 2005. That time there was no transparency, there was no IPO module, but the whole landscape had changed in the last 10 years, or especially last 5 or 3 years. And earlier we used to have only 100 or 120 examiners, and today we have about 1,000 examiners. And the number of patent has also increased. Like we get a 250% increase in last 3 years. I will try to show you some data. And there is a complete digitalization for e-filing. Patent office today accept only electronic filing. And there is a e-prosecution. You will receive all the office actions, all the notices on your email, on your SMSs. Even you file your application, you will get SMS alert or your email. Or there is even e-maintenance of patent. So everything has gone digital. We hardly get to see the paper. So even in COVID time, that was a good thing for people like us who used to have offices and used to work on the physical files. So last 4 or 5 years, we are not working on that big volumes of physical files. All files were digitalized either with our office or at the patent office level. So that has helped. And they are some of the initiative patent office has taken. They have recruited more examiners. They have elevated some examiners to controllers and deputy controller level. They have completely digitalized. And now these all 4 patent offices, they interact a lot. Even your cases, they mark to examiner based on the, based on their workload. So like it's a system fix. Earlier, the practice was if I am filing before Delhi Patent Office, then only Delhi examiner, Delhi controller will take up my matter. If I'm filing something for Mumbai, Chennai, Kolkata, they will only able to pick up my matter. But nowadays, it's just system randomly, picks any controller or any examiner. So I can file an application before Delhi, but it can be picked up by a controller who's in Mumbai. Controller is the examiner supervisor, or his examiner could be from Chennai, and everything in the system. And so that has also bring lots of consistency, uniformity, and in the practices. Otherwise, India is such a big country, such a diverse country. Culturally, people are different in east, north, south, and west, and then their practice also they tend to differ. But this has helped, and these are some of the now. We could see on average 15, 16,000 patents are get granted. And now the government in the plan is to, once you file your request for examination, they want to grant your patent within 18 months to 2 years. So, and in many cases of a startup or small entity who have filed a expedited examination. So there is a different fees for expedited examination. There is a normal fees for normal examination, but if you want to expedite, there is some capping also for 1,000 cases for startup or small entity. If you are going into the expedited examination, then we have seen even patent have been granted within 100 days. Some patent has been granted in 45 days. And we see nowadays it's a common patent are getting granted within 6 months to 9 months. This all depends. So the things have moved pretty fast. There's no, there is a complete shift in the practice. How was the practice and how much was the backlog some 15 years back, 10 years back. or maybe 7-8 years back. But now the backlog is less. This is some trend. Uh, this is like, just to give you the idea year-wise, how many patent applications were filed. So currently you see, this is a 18-19. I don't have the 19-20 data. So about 50,000 applications were filed and some 85,000 applications were examined and about 15,000 were granted. And here disposal means many of the applicants, they either, abandon their matters or do not prosecute their matters, or patent office have disposed of. So these are the numbers for that. But the good part is patent office is examining more what is filed there. So it's just a matter of a time. Rather in trademark side, we are already neck to neck. Things have moved really fast. In a patent, because these are highly technical matters and depend on sector to sector. Still, in pharma field, we could see wherever we have filed requests for examination in 2018 or 19, we are getting the examination report. And these are some of the and these are some of the sectors field. You can see these are the broad numbers. Chemical is constant in a year. These much patent filed in chemical side, and this is pharmaceutical. The numbers are less, but they go more into the contentious or enforcement side. And then there is a food, electrical. There more inventions are filed in mechanical, or if you combine engineering side, computer, electronics, and so mechanical is a big practice, or computers or engineering. And the biotech also, there is a less filing, less than 1,000. And then there are the other fields, and then other fields are also described in the annual report. These are the some distribution, like, these are the categories of people who file. There's a natural person, like as an individual, you can file your patent application. As a startup, you can file small entity and large entity to basically each company. And these are the division of Indian and foreign. If you see comparison, so everywhere there is an increase. Like there are more Indians are filing, individuals are filing patent application, and these are the foreign individuals. And Indian startup has increased. So, these are 17-18 data, but in last 1 or 2 years, there is an increase in Indian startup filing. Small entities also have increased filing under this category. And then there are this large entity. In large entity, we see the bigger Indian companies are filing just 6,000 or 7,000 patents. But we receive most of the patent application from outside India, like 30,000 patent applications. And this is a big number where bigger companies in telecom, in mechanical inventions, or pharma, or life science, or polymer, they are coming from the outside India. These is some expedited examination, like startups have filed 161 requests, 10 has been granted. And these are the number for, how many were refused and granted, and where out of these, even office action has been issued. And this figure might have been updated. Okay, now I'm coming to what happens if you get a refusal from a patent office. So if you receive an adverse order from a patent office, one thing, you can file a review. So in our law, we have appeal, review, and reference. So there is a concept of a review. Review is only filed for the limited ground, where there is an error apparent on the face of record, like something controller or examiner has missed or not considered, or your argument, which is very apparent on the face of record. He has not considered that document and simply refused your matter. You can file a review. There is a timeline of 1 month plus 1 month STG. Or you can also go for appeal. Appeal is a broader. You can file an appeal for any on merit. It will go to independent tribunal, IPAB, Intellectual Property Appellate Board, and there is a retired High Court judge, is a chairman, and then there is a technical member from the patent side and trademark. So appeal is there. Even appeal, you can file a review, or from the adverse order of IPO. If you see there is a question of law, there is some violation of principle of natural justice, then you can directly go to High Court. You can file a writ, you can go to a High Court, either if your matter is refused by a patent office in a prosecution or in opposition. You can also go to High Court. You can also file IPAB. And again, from IPAB, if you see there is a violation, you can file a writ to High Court. And from IPB or High Court, you can file a special leave petition to Supreme Court. So this is a broader structure how we from IPO to Supreme Court. Apart from prosecution, there are the three things which I touched upon: oppositions and revocations. So you file a patent application, and this is a publication, examination, and grant. So after publication and before grant, we have a section 25(1) where any person can file a pre-grant. So there is any person. But after grant, within 1 year from the grant, any interested person can file a post-grant. So there is a difference between any person and interested person. Interested person, you have to supposed to show what is your loci standing, why you are interested in opposing this patent. You have that burden. But in pre-grant, even that is relaxed, but it still is an arguable matter. It can't be misused or abused the process, but that is as per the act. And then there is a revocation. Even if someone has missed 1 year, then a revocation can be filed before IPAB, even after expiration of post-grant. So just to give you some broad numbers, so pre-grant applications are dependent on publication. Only after publication, pre-grant application can be filed. So if you see, they are the huge number of publications, but if you compare with the pre-grant application, they are still less. 260, 290, 247, or 300 are filed if there is a publication of 47,000. Or here in 2016-17, there was a publication of almost 87,000 applications, but only 200 pre-grant. So these numbers are less, and mostly pre-grant or post-grant they filed in pharmaceutical industry. So it's a 90% of cases is a pharma or biotech, and then remaining 10 or 15% of cases they come in some mechanical or it's also an industry like in telecom. The things become obsolete after 3 or 4 years. In pharma, the whole together different ball game. There's a different clinical trials and other things are involved, and the main things come after 5 or 10 years. So same, there is a post-grant. The post-grant numbers are still very less. You see, I have some data from the annual report. We say only 12, 6, 8, or 8, 14 post-grants are filed. So whatever pre-grant are filed on the publication, they are still less, and post-grant are very less. So once you have a granted patent, so normally the trend is we see less post-grant applications. And then revocation, which can be filed before IPAB or as a counterclaim in infringement. I will touch about infringement. What is infringement? A suit. If you can also take your patent, and whoever infringing your right, you can file a suit for infringement before court. And then the defendant can file a counterclaim saying, no, look, your patent is not valid. So that is also a kind of revocation, but that revocation is before High Court. And the ground of revocation include those which are eligible for pre and post grant opposition, and there are some additional. The grounds are in pre and post grant oppositions are same, but in revocation there are some additional and broader grounds. So this is something to update you on the. You may have been saying, there are so many options available to the other side: pre-grant, post-grant, revocation, counterclaim. But no, Supreme Court has held in this Dr. L.A. Woven matter. What are the rules? So now they have clarified. This is a simple principle of res judicata. The same matter cannot be argued before different forums. You cannot be agitating same patent before patent office, IPAB, and the court. There could be a complicated decision, and in court there could be other decision, other interpretation, and IPAB could give other interpretation. The patent office could, and this all brings to a different challenge. So what court has said. So pre-grant, there is no rule, because your right only start once you have a granted patent. So in a pre-grant, all right. But once you have a granted patent, if someone has filed a post-grant opposition, then he cannot file a revocation before IPAB or counterclaim before a patent infringement suit in any court. So out of 3, everyone will get one chance. If he file a post grant, he cannot file a revocation, he cannot file a counterclaim. Let's suppose if you file a revocation, then you cannot file a counterclaim in a suit. And third, if you have filed a counterclaim, then you cannot file a revocation before IPAB. So these are the law. The principle remain, you should not agitate same matter before different forum. So as a defendant, you have to choose your option, which should be your battleground, patent office or IPAB or court. If you have filed revocation counterclaim at one place, you are barred from filing other place. And a post grant has time limit of 1 year, but revocation counterclaim has no time limit. This is a commercial code, just to give you, where a patent infringement suits are filed. So normally you can file your suit. These are civil matters, come under the civil matters, and you can file before district court. If your suit, you value your suit, infringement suit less than 3 lakhs, you can file before district court. Or you can file a commercial court of, so even designated court in the district court, which are commercial court, you can file for the there if your suit value is above 3 lakhs. And then there are high court. You can directly, there are 5 high court in India, or you can file before commercial division of that high court if your suit value is above 3 lakhs. So Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, Kolkata are there, and fifth jurisdiction is Himachal Pradesh. So there, Shimla High Court is there. So that is the original jurisdiction. They can entertain the suit. If there is a any appeal or counterclaim, that can go to this commercial division of High Court. So normally, you first go to single judge, and then there is something we call a division court. Where we have multiple judges and appellate court, and from that it can go to the US Supreme Court. So this is for the patent infringement suit. So you have a patent, you got the patent. Like now, what are the actions which amount to patent infringement? You have a granted patent. So professor will say it's a negative right, it's a monopoly. It will give you right where you can stop other people from doing something. If you have a product patent, so any unauthorized making, using, offering for sale, selling, or importing of any patented invention will amount as an act of infringement. You can file your suit if you find anyone is doing all this kind of activity. Unauthorized using of patented process, unauthorized using, offering for sale, selling, importing into India the product obtained directly from the patented process. That is also an act amounting to a patent infringement. Even any colorable imitation of your invention, some invention and someone has tried to act smart and design around, even that can amount to give you cause for a patent infringement. Even any mechanical equivalent, some is, just change a chemical equivalent, or, so we have a doctrine of equivalence, and you see, the core invention is same, but someone is just trying to come out of my patent. He has just put some other equivalent, and that the purpose of, like, some of the diluent or excipients provide the same purpose. Maybe there is a patent which gives a specific thing, and then depending on the facts and circumstances of that matter, you can construe whether you can file a suit against this guy who has just simply changed one excipient with another excipient. That is nothing but the equivalent. They fall under the same category. And wherever you feel they are taking essential claim feature of the invention. So in a patent, they are the claim. End of the day, you have to match the product of a defendant with your claims, granted claims. And they are also exception to the patent infringement. They are these 5 things are exception to the patent infringement. We have section 49, which says, use of patented invention in foreign vessels or aircraft temporarily or accidentally within territory of India is not a patent infringement. We have BOLA provisions. That's more useful to our regulatory affairs professionals. So you may use any patented invention. Constructed, made, or sold or imported for the reason solely related to the development and submission information to regulatory authorities in India or elsewhere. If you are using any patented invention only for the regulatory approval purpose in India or outside India, that will also not a patent infringement. For any granted patent, you can take that product as long as you are using only for the preparing data or submission for regulatory approval, that doesn't amount to the patent. And then we have a parallel import. Any importation of patented product by any person from a person who's authorized under the law to produce and sell or distribute the product is exception. So India follow this doctrine of exhaustion of patent rights. So we have 107A and 107B. So in parallel import, you can take a product from any person who is authorized to sell and distribute that product. As long as that person is authorized and you are taking that product in India, you are also exempted from that. And there is a government rule. And the government, there is a section 100 and section 47, 1, 2, 3. We say, patented article and article made through patented process can be imported by government for its own use. The government, at the end of the day, anytime can take your patent. And then there are research exemption for student use or making of patented invention for the purpose of experiment or research or imparting knowledge to student is also exemption under section 47. So these are the kind of exemptions for the patent where no suit of infringement will lie. These are more into the legal side, what kind of relief you can get in different court. They are interim relief and they are permanent relief. Interim is something which is, interim or temporary in nature, but in our pharmaceutical industry, this interim sometimes become a made relief. And then obviously they are the permanent relief. Interim, you have an ex parte. Ex parte we call, when you are just filing a injunction suit, and you get the order without any appearance of the other party, ex parte, yani without hearing the other party. I have to approve it. Okay. And then application, you can also, just a minute, how I have to cancel it. Yes. So even yeah. So you can also ask for an interim injunction, for a stay order. You hear my matter on the merit later, but you give me stay, whatever he is doing. That is the interim injunction. And then also there is an application for appointment of local commissioner. You can move in a, interim, take an interim leave of civil raid. You can ask to appoint a local commissioner who can visit premises of infringer company or lab and search and seize the infringing product. You can also get interim relief you can move application for discovery by interrogating. You can ask question to the other side and say, give me these answers. And these discovery applications, they are used to preserve your evidence and other things, and they eventually you can get a local commissioner appointed to take. And you can also move an application for deposit of royalty and bank guarantee. You say this infringer, he has to give me this much damage, or rather, what is the best way to secure that amount? You can make a deposit as a royalty or bank guarantee in a court, and their court can also freeze the account and any miscellaneous relief. And then there are permanent relief, permanent injunctions to stop, permanently stop misusing the IPR. But permanent relief come after a full trial and other thing. And then there is also permanent relief as a monetary compensation by way of damages, how much damage that infringement action has cost to you, or an account of profit by calculating loss or to the plaintiff, or delivery of or destruction of infringing material. So these are the permanent relief you can get in suits. Meanwhile, Dr. Neeraj and Dr. Pavan, so do we have time, or I can take a few more slides, or we have to open for questions?
No, sir, you can continue. No issues.
I will try to finish in maybe 10 minutes.
Yes, sir, sure, no issue.
These are just if it's interest to you. These all are the bigger topic, and it's required further detailed. Just to give you idea, what you do. We normally once you file a suit, the matter is normally listed for the same or next day. Courts are very pro-innovative these days, and you can also get an ex parte injunction in your favor. or thereafter, first injunction application is heard, stay application is heard, and then thereafter they can take a year to frame issues, what are the issues involved, and then trial is initiated. And the trial takes a bigger time. Trial takes about 1 year to 18 months, 12 months to 18 months to conclude. In trial is your all cross-examination and all things happen. And then if I say it's just, again I got this. Yes. So it takes about 2.5 years where you can expect a final order from the lower court. Obviously, if the matter is appealed during the proceeding, it can prolong your litigation. Earlier, it used to be 4, 5, or 6 years. I have seen even 5 to 7 years in the court for patent litigation. So Ross versus Cipla started in 2008 and eventually concluded with division bench in 2016. So some 8 years has gone in that matter. But now with the Commercial Court Act and other things, we can expect to the lower court at least 2.5 years is a decent time. And yes, courts are very much independent and cases are decided on the merits. These are some of the common issues during the proceedings. You should know what are the main issues and where the burden of proof lies. So there is a jurisdiction issue. Jurisdiction is a very typical thing in the law. So if you are filing a suit before Delhi High Court, so does that court have a territorial jurisdiction to try this suit? The plaintiff is who is filing the suit, or patentee. They have to prove this burden. How the court has jurisdiction to try this matter. They have to prove how the cause of action arises within this territorial jurisdiction of the court. So for the jurisdiction, plaintiff has a burden, initial burden to prove that. Then there are the procedural issues where the suit suffer from delay. There is a delay. We have a limitation period and other things, but you are in a market, you are aware about the other infringer, but you are taking your sweet time and coming after 4 or 5 years. Then defendant has the burden of to prove that there is a delay from the patentee side. And then whether suit has been properly valued. You have to, while filing a suit, this value comes into the picture. How you value it accordingly, you have to pay the court fees. So that plaintiff has a burden of proof. And then the issues of merit, whether this plaintiff or patentee owns in, because this is a valid IPR right. IPR, it could be trademark suit or patent or copyright. So that plaintiff has a burden to prove. And whether the defendants, the act of defendants are infringing, that plaintiff has to prove in his case. Whether the IPR in the suit is valid, you mean counterclaim. The defendant has a burden to show their IPR rights are not valid, and they can challenge that. And whether the defendant has any prior right superior to their IPR right, then defendant has to prove any background, or they have the regulatory approvals and things like that, or whether defendant activity fall under any exceptions of infringement. We have seen 5 or 6 infringement exception to infringement, and that defendant has to prove, I'm not infringing, I'm falling into defense. And then whether plaintiff is entitled for grant of foreign injunction, that plaintiff has to prove. And then again, damages another part, and conduct to the plaintiff, that defendant has to, have the onus. And whether damages claims are appropriate, that plaintiff has to prove. Even, you have to justify why you are saying you want to claim damage of 1 CR, 2 CR, or 10 CR, or 100 CR. You have to prove how you have calculated that damage. So these are general precautions before filing a patent suit. We advise patentee or plaintiff to see, or we do diligence, whether they have a valid or subsisting IP, including registration certificate, whether they are paying annuity or maintenance fees, or there is a valid cause of action within appropriate jurisdiction. India is a big country, and you cannot bring all the action just simply to Delhi High Court. So you need to clear on the cause of action and jurisdiction. If there is a documentary proof of infringement activity, eventually it's all about evidence. How what could be the evidence of proving that infringement? Eventually, it's a product versus your claim, and how you connect that product with your claim. What kind of evidences you have? How some evidences like he's selling in a market. So what kind of evidence? Which chemist shop they are selling the drug? Some will be safe, and some. So whatever evidence you can bring to strengthen your case, and so all this come into handy. And this is the main thing. Does your product process fall within the scope of patent claims? Whatever infringing product or process, you have to map, or sometimes, if possible, expert can provide an affidavit saying, this product is simply mapping on the granted claims. So these things help court, because in court, you understand, judges are not from the technical; they are more civil or criminal judges. For them, these affidavits and things help judges, and eventually they have to see three principles. You have a prima facie case, where is the balance of convenience, or whether there is a irreparable loss or damage to the other side. And then, is there evidence of a commercial use, offer of sale or especially within the jurisdiction, or is the suit appropriately valued and damage correctly claimed? These are some of the questions we do before filing a suit. And just to say, these are the current trend. We see interim injunctions, which are in a pharma. Would say these are the rather main relief you get. Once you have some interim injunction, a stay order, that's good for you, or a spiking injunction. We see, these things are gettable, and they are dependent upon jurisdiction and merit of the cases. So different jurisdictions have different practice. Mumbai, Chennai, Delhi, Kolkata, or other courts have different. Some courts are very, open for even ex parte injunction, and few courts even give this interim injunction, and few courts they take cautious approach, because these are medicine and impact people, affordability, accessibility, and other things. So they give notice to other side, and they say, no, we'll hear everything and then we'll pass a decision. So courts, we see they are increasing in favor of granting injunction, and the granted interim injunction order can be used to get favorable orders in others. So like if you see multiple infringers and you have one or two favorable orders, then you can replicate. It's possible to replicate that order in other matters. Oh, so that's come to the end. Yeah. So I can stop sharing, yeah. So maybe I could not now. Yeah. So maybe anyone has any question, they can put this there, and or if colleagues want, we can have if they have any interest in any specific topic, like how you draft patent specification, what kind of information you required in drafting and things like that, then it's required further detailed deliberation and some more special time of webinar. Here, idea was to give some broader outview on procedure and then enforcement angle, and these are very big thing, and so I just tried to cover this.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Yeah, you covered a lot of things within a stipulated time. So now people have started writing the question in chat box. Okay. Are you able to see chat box, sir?
Yes. Yes, I could see. And
okay.
maybe I'll pick. I could see there's something from Ankush Pandey, and he's saying product has been patented in foreign country. Now scientists want to develop the same in India. What will be the issue? I mean, the first feature is the novelty. Product has to be novel. It has to be the worldwide novel. So already patented in foreign country, you cannot. So there is something called priority right. Yeah. So
और क्या था गेट 2 के सामने खड़े अरावली रेजिडेंट वेलफेयर स्टेशन गेट.
So maybe someone has to mute. I could hear echo.
Yeah, 1 second. Yeah, done.
Yeah. So yes, I mean, Ankush, in that case is not patentable. It's, the main thing is a novelty, and novelties go by this global novelty. It should not be published in anywhere in the world. For novelty, this is absolute criteria. There are a few exemptions, and but that exemption will not apply to your question. And then second, I come to Hardik Jain. And he is about drafted for use of a new drug manufacturing imported, not approved in India and outside, is still in the clinical. No, I mean, there is no exception here in our Hardik. If I understand your question correctly, I mean, so first, try to appreciate my point. Drug regulatory and Indian Patent Office, there is no linkage. Even that has been settled by Delhi High Court. There is no linkage between drug authorities and patent office. Yes, under the patent statute, you have a right. If you have a patent, if anyone is using your product in process, you can file an infringement suit. But before the drug authority, then their definition of a new drug is altogether different as compared to the definition of novelty, mental step, and other principles applied here. But in infringement action before court, both comes into picture. Like if you have to file a suit, then we'll try to bring these kind of evidences. I have a patent, and they have, a drug controller has also given them a grant and allowed them manufacturing or marketing license. So then your jurisdiction is a court. You cannot ask drug regulatories to not to allow regulatory approval just because you have a patent. Your main jurisdiction eventually lies before a court, and court is empowered to give that decision. So that even matter was agitated a few years back before a court, and court said, you can't sue a drug regulatory entity, and there is no linkage between so in this case, that case company went to High Court saying, drug regulatories has allowed them license of manufacturing or marketing, and I have a patent. They have not checked with this, and even in the form there is a column for a patent. So, but court, refused to entertain into that line. So it will not help. Patent right is different. And now I'm coming to Chandan. I mean, Chandan Chandana. I mean, I know he's from our Naipur. Yes, Chandan, what are the possible ways to protect if any academic person discloses invention in the scientific journal for starting? Yes, we have exceptions, in section 29 to 33 are there, but they are very limited thing. Rather in US, what happens like if someone has published their invention, and then in US, they give you 1 year period where you can file your invention. Your own publication will not going to haunt you in US before USPTO, but in India that will be considered as a valid prior art. So we have a specific section 29 to 33 where they have listed, what kind of display, like if you have presented a poster presentation before this learned community, whether that will amount to a disclosure or not, or what is a publication means. So there's a very limited ground. If you are falling into that category, if you somehow publish before a learned society, then yes, you can go ahead and file your patent application and claim. During this, eventually it will come to the prosecution. And in prosecution, if your examiner or controller has able to cite your poster presentation or some of these things during the prosecution, then you have to invoke these sections and saying how these are exemptions for you, and still you deserve a patent. So yes, these are all arguable matters. We invoke, but there are one or two where it's linked with the your generals, which come with the central government permission. So normally, it's based on the cases to cases, and this is yes applicable. I mean. So yeah, there is a Dr. Amita Kumari. She's asking plaintiff and defendant. These are, so plaintiff is someone who is filing a suit. Plaintiff is not necessarily is going to be patentee always. So, but 90%, 95% of cases is going to be patentee only. So, you have a patent right, then only you are filing a suit for infringement. So that is a patentee, and sometimes his licensee can also become a plaintiff. So normally in a suit or in the cases you will see they are a plaintiff number 1, 2, or then they are defendant, defendant or respondent. So normally whenever you file a suit, you will put first government also a one party. Like if I am filing a suit, I'll put patent office also a one party respondent, and because the respondent has granted that patent, in my counterclaim. And then also I try to put more respondent, one that company, and then sister subsidiary or sister concerns of that company as a more respondent or defendant 2, 3, and then their distributors, their other side. These are normally we use word like plaintiff and defendant.
Yeah, I think you have covered all the questions. Yeah, before we move to the next session, I request all the participants to fill the form. Link is provided in chat box, and don't worry about the date by mistake for July. But this is the only form you have to fill so that our team can send the e-certificates to you. And I can see the president, Dr. Sangamesh Puranik sir, is also joined, and it is from IPA DSB. Dr. Naresh Sharma sir is there, and Kalan Bajaj sir is there. So I would like to ask some concluding remarks from these people also. So over to you, Sangamesh sir.
Thank you, Amreji. It was indeed a very informative session. We have covered almost all the parameters of the patent filing, patent procedures, as well as the enforcement, in covering the Infringement Act also. So it is very informative to the beginners who are researchers who want to file patent based upon their zones. They can approach to their respective zones for patent filing. So indeed, you explained about the compulsory license, especially in pharma. Whenever it is not affordable in the respective countries, the government has its own law. They can issue a compulsory license to the local manufacturers to make it affordable and available within the specified time. So, and other things you have you have covered about the total, mainly the recent updation from the patent office. If there are more files in one jurisdiction or one zone, it will be transferred to the other zones, which has fast track approvals are available now, because earlier they used to face a lot of issues due to lack of the examiners, these availabilities. So now, since there is interchangeable between zones to zone, it may be file maybe from Chennai to Delhi or who is free. So that is a very good move from the government IPO side, as well as since you told some of the statistical data says that fast track approvals, landmark is like within 45 to 60 days, some fast track approvals are also given. And one more thing about this, mainly this TEVA, which always they used to file opposition for majority of the pharma companies. And I heard it is like a big gambling game happening. So out of the court settlements, mostly I heard TEVA is famous for that. They have a big team for opposition for many of the major companies' patents. So even 80 to 90% are mainly cases from pharma and biotech, because a lot of infringement or some other small issues will be there, like copyright issues or information. Yeah. And you have given a very good explanation to the new beginners. It is very informative, and thank you once again for the wonderful session from your side, Amit.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. I agree with you. I think Naresh sir is there, right? Dr. Naresh Sharma sir. I would like to request for a few words. Hello. Naresh sir, you are on mute. Your voice is not audible, sir. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Very good afternoon. I think now I'm audible. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Wonderful, Amrishi. It was really nice and mind-blowing presentation. You covered each and every aspect of patent with illustration of statistical data is remarkable, and we are proud that you are Executive Council member of IPA Delhi branch. So various section what you had captured is really very informative and useful to all the participants, including student, industry, and those who has just touched these patent aspects. So from our side, we'll also see that how we are going to strengthen IPR section. Being the chair, you being the chairman of IPR division, so we'll strengthen this IPR division to take it on a big scale so that the industry can also get the benefit at the larger scale. As the each and every slide of your presentation with the content was really very good. I was impressed from knowing the procedure, then foreign filing and statement of working. You mentioned the current topics as well about the compulsory license. And one word what you had used, I don't know whether the participants are aware about it or not, about the accessible and affordable medicine. India, being the global pharmacy of the world, they are working for SDG 2030. That is, standard goals, which to be achieved by 2030 as per the WHO, so that each and every people of the world will have quality, affordable, and which can be accessible to them. So, considering all these aspects, and the cost was also one of the area where the people in need must get the affordable medicine. So compulsory license was the another chapter which you had explained very nicely. And I was also impressed to know about 5-year progress which can be observed for from the prospects of grant of patent that has increased to three folds from to till date. There is a increase in granting the patent by 3 times, and one part which compensate usage has been mentioned by one of the participants. Our General Secretary of IPA Delhi branch, he had attended many meetings on behalf of IPA to the Government of India Ministry of Health, along with Dr. Mangala Kotnis, and we are proud of taking the initiative from IPA Delhi branch to bring this unique to India. Already having, but India was not having. So importing those medicines who are not approved in India for patient specific was the mission. And Dr. Neeraj and Mangala Kotnis did a lot of good work under the guidance of Dr. Y.K. Gupta and Ministry of Health official to bring it at least after say few years. But now the things are happening. So with these remarks, I wish you all the best and thank you so much, Amrish Tiwari ji, for such a wonderful session.
Yeah, thank you, Naresh sir. Just last but not least, today we have a president of IPA Delhi State Branch, Kalan Bajaj sir. So I request Kalan sir for a few words. I know Amrish sir, you have another meeting at 4 o'clock, but we'll wind up within a few minutes. So over to you, Kalan sir.
I am audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good afternoon to all. Thank you, Dr. Pawan and Dr. Neeraj, for organizing such highly intellectual webinar series every Saturday. I think so. It is the 8th such series. Already 2 months have passed, and I think a lot of participants might have gained a lot of knowledge in these webinars. And I thank Amrish Tiwari from the bottom of my heart that for such a wonderful presentation on IPR. And we are very proud of you, sir, for being chairperson of our IPR forum in IPA Delhi State Branch. And it is this IPR is a very current hot topic these days, especially during COVID times, where we see lot of patents being to be granted once we have a vaccine in place. And it has been really informative for the students who want to pursue their careers. By your elaboration you have done in the on the topic, and anyone who is representing the from the company side, from the industry side, and wanted to have some clarity and doubts on the current topic which we have discussed, I think you might have gained some knowledge by your elaboration and your presentation. And you covered really nearly every part of this Indian patent system, its prosecution and enforcement. And if somebody has any doubts, he can write to ARAP or to IPA Delhi State Branch, and we can take it forward and forward it to Amrish ji for further discussing or further answering the questions. And you have covered all the topics, and I myself could learn lot of things. Especially we could see the lot of patents have been granted, and it has increased at least more than doubled. The patents have been granted, and they have been doubled from 2015-16 to 18-19, and other things you have discussed. And especially you common issues in IPR enforcement proceedings and general precautions before filing a patent visit is truly mind-boggling to understand, and we are very proud of you that you had discussed this topic in great detail. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Amrish sir, once again for a wonderful and informative presentation and talk. We have covered all the things. I again want to request participant for the registration form. Please fill the form. The link is already shared in chat box. So I think Neeraj sir, are you there? Hello.
Yes, I am there.
Yeah. Over to you, sir.
And thank you, Kannan sir, President IPA Delhi Branch, President Kailash, and Chairman sir, and all participants for such a wonderful gathering. Here I thank you everyone, and special thanks to Dr. for Advocate Amrish Tiwari for such a wonderful presentation. So it's a very informative also presentation. We include all parts from starting to the speech part as well as the claim settlement, etc. Cover very nicely covered. So as already discussed in the program, if any attendee have any question, they can write to us, or we will forward their request to Amrish and revert back very soon. So by this, thank you everyone. Thank you, Amrish, and over to you, Pawanji.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, I mean, thank you so much. I just want to thank
Yeah, we.
both Association, Indian Pharmaceutical Association Delhi branch, and Association of Regulatory Affairs Professionals. Special thank to Dr. Naresh, Kalyan Bajaj ji, and Dr. Sang, and Dr. Neeraj and Pawan. Thank you so much, and thanks to all audience for joining us and on this Saturday, especially after your lunch. Hope it was useful and helpful to you. And we look forward for more such webinars, and do write to us if you have any topic of interest. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. And we have ended this meeting. Yeah, it's correct 4 o'clock.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for all the participants for joining this meeting. Thank you, Sangamesh sir, Kalan sir, Naresh sir, and Neeraj sir, for your guidance. So I request all the participants, they can, it's end. Okay, some people are sending. Okay. We'll provide. So you can leave this meeting. So as a host, I announce this meeting, and I'm ending this meeting. So thank you for joining. Thanks again to all of you.
Thank you. Happy.
Yeah, thank you.
Cherry blossom.
Hello.
ईर्षान इस्लाम क्या है? नहीं ईर्षान इस्लाम.
Yeah, Neeraj sir.
Yes, thank you, Pawanji.
Yeah. वो recording चालू किया मैंने actually. It's some 10 or 15 minutes late, but recording is there. Okay. So I'm ending this meeting.
So, ठीक है. Okay, we will ending this meeting and we will intimate all participants through the mail and WhatsApp for the next webinar details. Thank you for all for attending. And by this I am ending the meeting. Pawanji, please end the meeting.
Yeah. Okay.